Hello, everyone. Good day to you all. I bring you greetings from Asia. And I welcome you also to my presentation on the platform of the 5th London International Conference on Social Science and Humanities. My name is Ruth Frimpoma Anefi Gordon. I'm an early childhood educationist, passionate about gender issues. Currently, I am in China pursuing a PhD program in history. And I present to you the international relationship between rape and constructions of masculinity and development assistance in the Democratic Republic of Congo, the DRC. With our overview, we're going to have the introduction, the study area, the design of the research, significance of the study, the research questions and objectives, reasons why some soldiers rape during wars. We look at the findings, and then we make the general assessment and I conclude. So without wasting much time, I begin with the introduction. The war in the DRC, which was termed as Africa's First World War, lasted for almost 10 years. This caused heinous destructions to properties, infrastructure. It impeded on national growth, which caused a lot of people, especially women and children, to suffer greatly. Soldiers and rebels used rape as a weapon of war to defeat their opponents in the case of DRC. So this research explored why rape was used as a weapon of war. In the midst of ammunition, why rape was used, also leaving the DRC to be tagged the rape capital of the world. This statement actually caught my interest during my master's program, a statement made by John Holmes in Brown 2020. And this really caught my attention and drew my interest to research on this. Why rape? How can rape be used as a weapon during war? So this is the study area, the African map, and this is the study area, the DRC. A clear picture is here. This is the exact place that was tagged as the capital of rape. This is the North Kivu, the eastern part of DRC, and it's sharing borders with a whole lot of countries on the east and then on the west as well. And remind you, we also have two Congo-please countries. We have Congo Brazzaville. It's a small country sharing border on the west of DRC. So we have Congo Brazzaville and Congo Kinshasa. I am talking about Congo Kinshasa. So the research employed a qualitative approach, relying solely on questionnaires and secondary data. Also, random sampling technique was used to collect data using the issue of rape in Congo and the role in dealing with atrocities committed against women and girls during the two wars. The purpose of this method was to make an explicit choice based on the judgment about exactly who to include in the sample. This was a case study on the people of North Kivu in the eastern part of the DRC. So one may ask, how significant is this study? Knowing that women and girls, sometimes boys also, are the ones who bear the brunt of war, it was vital to examine the effects of the two wars on the women and girls in the DRC, giving an insight of different adversity it brings to a nation, the effect on national development, and the social and psychological well-being of the citizens, mostly women and girls. So for me, I took it to be very important and to bring to light the damage it causes to nations and human lives. Hence, if it is possible, the need to avoid or eliminate rape, conflict from our society at large. The research also asked a lot of questions, but out of the questions, I outlined 3 of them. To why the DRC, the capital of rape? Why were women raped and rape used as weapon of war? Why? Was this issue of rape a way of making money or a belief? So what was the objective? It was to investigate why the DRC was stereotyped as the rape capital of the world, to find out also why men in the DRC rape their women during war, to find out if rape was a way of making money by the influence of external bodies or just a belief. And out of the numerous reasons I gathered, I outlined 10 of them made by some soldiers and rebels. They said to humiliate, to express frustration or anger, to control communities, territory, and resources. Some said, in quotes, the devil made me do it, unquote, to silence, to terminate pregnancies, to protect soldiers. For them, it was a belief that if they rape, they get more protected. They are fortified. They are not being killed by gunshots and all that. That was their belief. To increase food insecurity, to retaliate, to avoid violence from superiors. So according to some of them, they are being punished at the refusal of their commanders when they command them to rape women just for the fun of it. They get punished. So in order to avoid those punishments, they also adhere to the commands of their superior and rape. Now, to our findings, Table 1 represents the respondents by age, and we could illustrate, Table 1 illustrates that the majority of the women and girls in the interview were between 25 to 45 years, as the majority of women interviewed were in their early and late 30s. Their answers tend to be more significant as women around those ages were more susceptible to start a family and have an occupation. Consequently, their views of rape and the situations around them were more specific because they were the affected ones. And at that age, most women plan to start a family and find a job. On the other hand, the women within 45 to 55 years and more, also due to experience, were more detailed and concise with their answers as they interpret the war in the more mature manner. Concerning the age group of women of 18 to 20 years, their answers tended to reflect their perceptions of life and experience after the war because of their inexperience in life. So they could only offer partial answers since they had not fully experienced life yet. Moving on to Table 2, it represents the educational levels of the respondents, and it shows the highest group showed that 15.6% had no education at all, while 9% had attained basic education. The percentage of those who had secondary education stood at 6%. From the results of the chart, educational levels of the women were lower and they were more likely to be less educated at the secondary level. Then table 3 represents the respondents by their marital status. The eastern part of DRC has more single and widowed women than divorced and married, which shows an indication of emotional instability, which cannot favor development. since women, unlike married, divorced, or the widowed, are more likely to depend on their families for support and assistance when facing certain problems that cannot favor their emotional stability. Then, Table 4 also represents the respondents by their religion, and this depicts the relevance of religion in the study, which was related to the fact that most of the time people's attitude and reason are a product of the religion they practice. So the religious background helped to understand the assertion of the respondents' perception of rape. The fact that there was 0% for other religions doesn't mean there are no other religions in the study area apart from the three main religions mentioned. Then to the last table, which represent the economic activities of the respondents, this shows that the majority of women, that is 15% of the respondents, were engaged in farming activities as they were able to earn some income to afford some basic needs. So were those in trading, contrary to the minority of 3.6% of the women who found themselves in other works depended heavily on their peasant farming and petty trading mothers. So to our general assessment, for ages, we'll say that women and girls have had to deal with the drastic effects of rape due to wars, which influence their well-being and conditions of life. Generally, the effect of rape on women and girls is viewed as traumatic. It is viewed as traumatic and disastrous due to the huge damage it causes. For instance, farming women of this study believed in the wars as the main factor of their current pain. This article, based on a structured interview, was carried out on the women and girls of Goma in the North Kivu of the DRC, critically assesses their condition of life after the two wars. So to conclude, I would say that for ages, rape has left some indelible marks such as emotional trauma on people. It has drastically affected the lives of women and girls as some remain traumatized for a long period by the violence exerted against them because they were women. Women and girls have been mistreated and oppressed by men in times of war, and the mistreatment reached very far, making women and girls become the primary targets of rebellious groups who use rape as a weapon of war. This brings to light the psychological and physical effects rape can have on the lives of women and girls. Their normal way of living changes to a devastating one, making them socially derailed. One could envisage from the sample size of 60 of those research that the majority of women were mainly farmers. They could no longer work on their farms to support their families. And perhaps those who could, that is the elite ones, might have flown to the city or other neighboring countries for safety to avoid sexual abuse. On the whole, what this research deduced from the issue of DRC being the capital of rape is that the rampant rape cases were real rape cases, but not a belief. But on the other hand, money making on the part of both some NGOs and natives of the land. So this is an appeal to the international bodies. I know there are a lot of measures and a lot of policies that have been made, but this aspect of rape during wartime should be eliminated completely to protect women and children during that critical time. Thank you for listening.